Welcome to the Dimecast, Season 3, Episode 1. Beth Duran alongside the QB trainer extraordinaire, my good friend Danny Hernandez. It's been a while since we've talked, and we normally have that beautiful SOA studio, and we will mix it up during the season where we go in studio. Abe and all the guys will take care of us, but we've decided that with my crazy schedule, Danny's crazy schedule, Danny, first of all, smooth barba, bro. What is that, brocha? Yeah.
I don't want to comment on camera right now, get a little too crazy with that.
Wow. And for those of you wondering, these are the Divid and Dimes golf merch. Danny's working on that. Another program, because you do need another project, don't you, Danny? You don't have enough work.
Why not? Stay busy, man. Stay busy.
Now, this past weekend, Danny, NFL draft. It was very, very special for you. Of course, Fernando Mendoza is the name that's out there. We know it. Raiders, big deal about it, number one pick. That's fantastic. But it was also special for you because you had some other guys that got involved with teams. Let's just start with, how was this weekend for you?
It was exciting, because you take a look and you just see the history of it all, right? You end up seeing maybe the guy being called his name first and everything, you're excited about that. But I can't help but play in my mind all the early stuff, right? All the early stuff and everything that he had to do to get there, So really cool to see him have that moment. Very happy for Fernando and the rest of his family. A little anticlimactic, I guess, for some people, knowing that he was going to be number one for a while. I think he was the clear number one. So, but still, very, very excited for him, without a doubt.
Yeah. So you take us back to this. When did you meet Fernando Mendoza?
So the funny part was I was out at a football camp with Julian Saint, starting quarterback over at Ohio State. And we were at Florida State for a mega camp that was going on over there. And I ran into my buddy, Frank Ponce, who's a coach. And Frank ended up saying, "Hey, I have this great family that I want you to meet. They're from Miami. That's where Frank's from. And he just wanted us to connect." He says, "Hey, the kid's not getting a lot of love. He's talented." I want to say this was Fernando was going into his junior year, I believe. Big kid, smart, excited, willing to work, and we connected. The cool part about it was I was already going out there in the area. I had a player at the University of Miami. Had a couple other high school guys that I was working with out there in Miami, so it made sense. Then the other connection was he has an uncle that lives in Carson, so it was like, oh man, you could come down from time to time, or I could get over there and. That was the start of the relationship right there.
Wow. So this is going to junior year, and we've all heard the story that nobody offered him. He didn't have this. He didn't have that. It's like, wait a minute. He's 6'5", 180 maybe at the time, and like a 8.5 GPA. He was going to play somewhere, right? He was, again, was he a late bloomer? Is that the right way to use with him?
Little bit of a late bloomer. And I think, when you look at him, he's a guy that I would describe, especially at around high school time, as awkwardly athletic, and I think right now, coaches are putting a high premium on guys being great athletes, right? They want to see these crazy numbers of 40 and shuttles and vertical and everything like that. And they put a lot of value in that. And don't get me wrong, it makes sense to do that to a certain extent. But a lot of the things that Fernando was going to be really good at, maybe you weren't going to recognize that right away in a camp setting.
The thing with Fernando is, I remember you telling me about him. You're like, I got this kid who's a Cuban in Miami, because our good friend George Sedano from ESPN, you're like, tell this kid about him. He was going, I think when you told me he had got Yale, that's what he had, but it was, Ivy Leagues don't give scholarships. It's need-based, and they needed a QB. But you told me, if this kid keeps working, because you love his break makeup and you love his work ethic, like, his kid is a D1 power player, but he's not there yet. So we've seen the video, and I think we're going to put it up there too, where you guys made the recruiting pitch of who he is and where he's at. And how did you get to Cal? Because I've heard 8 billion different versions of it, but you're the one that made Cal happen. How?
Yeah. Well, part of it was I had a really good relationship with the offensive coordinator at the time, Coach Musgrave. And Musgrave was actually recruiting 2 other kids that I worked with. One of them was Jaden Denegal, who eventually ended up choosing to go to Michigan. And the other one was Justin Martin. and he decided to go to UCLA. Now, those are both big guys, 6'4", 6'5" guys, and Musgrave was striking out. He was striking out on quarterbacks, and I knew that he kind of had a type, right? He wanted a big guy, is what he was looking for. And I said, look, man, I have a kid on the other side of the country. Not a lot of people know about him. I think the kid's very talented. There's a lot of upside with this kid. I think you got to go and take a look at him. So what we did is we ended up making a workout video. And a big part of that workout video, we wanted to make sure that we mic'd him up just so that you could kind of see a little bit of the command, the presence, the football IQ, see a little bit of that, and they would come off in the video. And we think we accomplished that. And we ended up sending that video over to Coach Musgrave. Got him excited enough to now do a little bit more digging into his actual film and see what he's doing on games, and said, okay, this is going to be worth the trip to fly across the country. This is late in the game. This is like a week or so right before signing day. So he decides to go over there, and Musgrave gives me a call. He says, hey, guess where I'm at? And I was like, where? He's like, I'm in Miami. I was like, oh, man. And he's like, yeah, I'm over here seeing your boy, man. He's as advertised. He goes, I'm pulling the trigger on him. I was like, man, that's awesome. So I was really excited, for him. At the time, Fernando was committed to Yale, and it looked like that was going to be his path. And I was excited about that too for him, because at the time, the starting quarterback at Yale was another kid that I was working with by the name of Griffin O'Connor. So it was pretty cool to see, okay, hey, one of my other guys is going to be over there, and Griff will look out for you and all that good stuff, but then the Cal opportunity presented itself, and it was too good for him to at least not look into it. And he did that. I think he ended up canceling his OV at Yale to take an OV over at Cal and to be able to see what it was like over there, and he fell in love with it.
This is a crazy process too. We've talked about it in the past in season 1 and season 2 about you have to be patient. It's everybody has a different kind of path. You said that the season was done and he didn't have the offers. That's scary for a senior.
It is scary. It's like, and the one thing that I loved about him is, he never lost confidence. It's frustrating. The process is definitely frustrating when it comes to recruitment for a lot of guys. And he was a guy that just like, coach, I just need a chance, man. I need someone to believe in me because I know I could do this, and I knew he could do it, so it was just a matter of, he checked enough boxes, already. Big physical kid, had a big arm, loved football, high football IQ, was just someone willing to take a shot and see what they had, so very, very thankful and grateful for Coach Musgrave over at Cal taking that chance.
Max Brown, who we know played at USC, now a commentator for ESPN. Max posted on his Instagram how he called the broadcast of Mendoza's first game when he was a redshirt freshman, right? And that's another thing. He redshirted, right? He yes. like everybody wants to be in a rush to play, and if not, they're transferring. It's, hey, take it easy, relax. Everybody's different path. But Brown even posted how he told them like, hey, you're going to be here. And what did you do? Exactly what you told me over the years. Say thank you, introduce yourself to everybody, sends Max Brown a DM. It was nice meeting you, Mr. Brown. And Max is in his 20s, by the way, at the time. And he's like, those little tiny details tell you a lot about who the person is and a character is. Oh, yeah. And you've stressed this a lot, but hey, you're 8 years old. Have the kid order his own Happy Meal, man. Use your voice. And that's what Fernando is.
He did. And, there's been a lot of clips that have popped up with older interviews with him, as a youngster. And you could see, a kid, still trying to learn his voice, early on, but had the confidence, to get out there and speak. And, that ended up showing obviously after that. So that was really cool to see.
But same time, Danny, you worked with a lot of big guys. You mentioned Julian Sain, different guys out there. Fernando wasn't the one you're like, oh man, he's going to the Raiders #1 in a couple of years. That wasn't it.
No, it wasn't. And it was funny because, early on in the process when I was working with Fernando, there was a lot of big name guys that I was working with, and he always kind of wanted to kind of know where I thought he stacked up against those guys, and I felt like, hey man, you check a bunch of boxes here. I think you're just as good as these other guys. It's like those other guys, from a recruitment standpoint, maybe we're a little bit more sexier prospects, that coaches are looking for, but there was no doubt in my mind that he was a good enough guy to be able to compete with all the rest of those guys for sure.
We've seen the pictures. You had him in Pico Rivera. You had him at Downey High with the other guys. That says, I mean, mind you, he had the resources. His dad's a doctor to be able to fly across the country and meet you wherever you're going to be at. But that's got to be scary for a teenager to leave your comfort zone of Columbus High, privileged area in South Florida, to say, I'm coming with some dogs in LA. I don't know anybody, Danny.
Yeah. No, and again, no fear. Just, out there working out. Didn't matter where we were having our sessions. He was all going to be all about it. Like I said, those couple of days where he would be able to stay with his uncle and Carson, we're getting 2 to 3 sessions in, double duty if there was, if we had to on a day. And it was great. And then once he ended up getting to Cal, it's an easy flight, right? He's going to make that quick flight to end up coming down. We'd get a day or two worth of work, and then he'd fly right back.
Yeah. Now, you didn't train with him for the combine. You didn't get ready for him for the draft, but the groundwork was done in the foundation when he was 10th, 11th grade, 12th year right there. I know you're not working with him right now, but at the end of the day, though, the relationship you have with him, anybody can train somebody, but not everybody can build somebody, Danny. That's got to give you a lot of satisfaction knowing that, hey, you saw this kid and you helped him along the way.
No, and I appreciate that. And a big part for me is when I get the opportunity to be play that role in their journey is just the trust, right? Because there's so many people that are out there, and to be able to give me that trust to be a part of that journey. So I'm thankful. Right after the draft day, I'm sending a message letting him know, hey man, proud of you. And he's like, thank you so much, everything that you've done, and just having our own little personal conversations. After that, it was just again so excited and happy to see all that for him.
And then at the same time, though, the very next day, you are at a school at 9 in the morning begging receivers to come hang out with you. You can't just say, oh, I trained to that's my second number one pick. And on your quarterbacks, have some friends, bring a receiver.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Show me that you got a little bit of juice and bring some guys, man. Come on, get with it.
Because a trainer trains. That's what you do.
Yeah, no, and it's like, it's back to business. It's like I'm in sessions, and obviously the draft's going on, and I'm taking a look, just to kind of see, what's going on. Obviously for Fernando, that was going to be clear cut, but now I'm watching it. I'm going back and forth with, Joey Aguilar, who's another one that I was really excited about, and trying to see what's going on there. And everybody's journey is a little bit different, right? You get one guy that's going to be a total clear cut guy. You get another one like, hey, there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know where we're going to go, but just as exciting both ways.
That's what I want to get into now. Joey Aguilar, you and I were texting about it, and you've seen some of the teams who are interested in him. And Danny, honestly, when I'm watching the draft to peek up, I've never met Joey, just interacted with him on social media because of you. You want to root for him because his story is so crazy. Like the JUCO kid who took the bus, and the story, you see his parents at Tennessee, all that stuff, petitioning for another year. The way that UCLA happened, up and down, App State with all that stuff. You love to root for him, right? At the same time, when you told me some of the teams that were talking to him, I'm like, don't get drafted. Don't get drafted. Don't get drafted. Because I want him to be the undrafted free agent that can pick his spot. And it ended up working where Jacksonville, he has a relationship, and he's going to go as an undrafted quarterback. And look, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant not too long ago. One pick away from being undrafted. Joey's in a good spot, man. I'm happy for him.
No, I am too. I mean, he's going to be over there with Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen, the head coach over there. I have a great relationship with Liam. Funny part is, Liam and I have known each other for years. He was with the Rams, and he ended up coming over, and he was coaching at Kentucky, and he was recruiting a bunch of my kids, and we'd be over there visiting with him. And then, then he ended up getting back into the league, and then getting this opportunity over there with the Jags. So knowing what I know of Liam and what he looks for in a Q and the things that he's able to appreciate in a Q, I think Joey's going to be perfect for him. So I think he's in a great spot. Really excited about that for him for sure.
And obviously, when you train kids, I love the Mijo weaves. I love the weaves. The kids I met when they were like 10 years old training with you, they're like in 8th grade now. But the parents get so caught up in, oh my God, what's going on down the road? But you cannot cut corners. And this is a perfect example of behave, treat everybody the right way, believe in yourself, and don't get caught up in the politics of what you can't control. Because if Joey would have been the guy bitching and crying about the way that UCLA happened with Iam Aliava and he blah, 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 who knows what happens to him. But he instead sucked it up, and I think you had a lot to do with that, and say, hey, we're going to get you to Tennessee, balled out in the SEC, and opened up a lot of eyes. And didn't get drafted, but he's in the freaking NFL, Danny.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of it, you see, you brought up him being a quote unquote JUCO product, right? The guys take a lot of pride in that, and you'll see guys hashtag that on social media when they've gone through the ranks of JUCO. And Joey would be the first one to tell you, like he wouldn't have changed his journey for anything. The fact that not a single offer coming out of high school, ended up having to go the junior college route. And that was still around the time when think there was like a COVID year in there somehow, and a lot of reasons to say, hey man, let's shut this down. But this was a guy that just said, hey man, I'm just keep chipping away, keep chipping away. And then again, the opportunity to happen with him is, man, common denominator here again is Frank Ponce. Frank Ponce ended up taking the chance on him over at App State. Frank was the offensive coordinator over there,
Well, we gotta
and
get
Joey
Ponce
went
on the
over there.
podcast, bro.
Yeah,
We
no,
gotta
we
call
got to get him
Ponce.
on, man. Yeah, we got to get him on. He'll be glad to get on, and he's a great guy, great coach. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of a coach he is and how good of an evaluator of talent he is. Because a lot of coaches could end up coming out, and it's real easy to say, "Oh yeah, I offered the number one guy in the country, and he's the top guy." It's easy to do that. I see these coaches, and they just kind of follow everybody else's lead.
Yeah.
It's when you get these guys that are willing to take a chance and say, no, that's the guy that I'm betting on. And there's something a little bit different about him. And I'm going to take a chance on him. So those are the guys like a Frank Ponce. Those are the guys, like Coach Musgrave, that are willing to do that. So I'm always appreciative of those guys that are able to kind of see beyond the stars and all that other stuff.
Diego Pavia, you've mentioned that you interacted with him. You haven't trained him ever, right?
Yeah.
He's never been in sessions with
I,
you, have you?
no, I haven't trained with Diego, but I have interacted with him a lot.
Now, Diego is going to be invited to the Bills mini camp, and like I don't know the
Ravens,
kid.
Ravens.
Oh, the Ravens mini camp. I don't know the
Yes.
kid, but just watching from a distance, he did a lot of cringe things that you and I were texting back and forth, like tell your cues not to act like this, tell them not to act like this, mind you. But you can act like that, Danny, when you're 6'5" and 250, and you could. But when you're 5'8", 5'9", you don't have the measurables. You really have to behave and be careful of the way you behave. Is this one of the reasons that maybe he didn't get picked up by anybody?
A little bit. It's like I think there's a lot of things that you could point this to. I mean, one, it's kind of known out there that he didn't have an agent. He wasn't working with an agent, and you need that. I think the guys, need that, or you at least need someone in your corner, that's kind of working,
Yeah,
advocating for you and working that agent role. It's going to have a network, have connections, and to be able to do all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. He had
I think he was,
it was he didn't have the NIL agent, and then he got
yeah.
the agent, but then it was like another thing, bro. Like otra cosa, like there's no need.
Yeah, and again, like I tell a lot of the guys when I have an undersized quarterback that I work with, I said, hey, understand that you're not playing under the same rules that that other guy in the room, that 6'3", 6'4" is playing. It's different rules, man. We could cry about it. It is what it is. If you're upset about it, you should have played soccer or baseball or something like that instead. But this is what you chose, so let's suck it up and deal with it. So yeah, you're right on that.
You're looking around, and again, you're not one to brag about I've done this, give me my credit. I don't want that. That's my role. My role is to pump you up like no other, man. So, like that, because I'm your biggest fan right here. Not because we're doing the podcast together, but I try to get your name out there, and it's like people ask me like, oh, is Danny working with Jay Mendoza? This and that. I'm like, bro, it's a business, and people understand
Yeah.
that once you get to that level, whether it's big time agents, different marketing, different everything else, it's you go different places because of where you're being pulled. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, Danny, if you don't have the foundation as a QB with the footwork, if you don't know how to read, if you don't know the playbook, all that is out the window, man. You have to put in the work, don't you?
Yeah, no, 100% you have to put in the work. You have to obviously have a really good foundation. You have to have what we refer to as a joyful obsession with this position in this game. You 100% have to have that. And if you're fortunate enough to have a really good circle and have really good people in that circle, they're going to put you in the right places at the right time, because so much of this is timing. It's like, I mean, we could go into a whole, episode on just Diego Pavia and his journey on how he got there. I know Coach Beck over at Vanderbilt really well, and he shared with me how he ended up over there. I mean, we've talked about Fernando's story, we've talked about Joey's story. It's like, and so much of the stuff has to do with timing. So yeah, no, 100%, man. I'm with you on that.
I'm not trying to pick on this young man, and I know it sounds like I have in the past. I'm not. I really want to root for him. Malachi Nelson. Malachi
Yes.
Nelson was supposed to be, if you go by the draft board when they came out of high school, he was supposed to be the guy in this draft class, right? He was supposed to be the one. And he's now left UTEP in different places. Well, I don't even know where he's at right now in the portal. But at the end of the day, though, Danny, that's also somebody that's special to you because you were his OC. You brought him along. You showed him, and you've been working with him. But at the same time, I'm not trying to say he's the kid you have to watch out for. Like, don't be him because he still has a huge future. But at the same point, you and I've talked about it, and not just Malachi, but so many other people over the years. Like, whatever happened to this guy, you have to do the work, man.
Yeah, you have to do the work, and again, different things end up, happening for these guys. And again, the more they become popular, the more they're going to get pulled from all these different places. And I think it's important that you keep a really good foundation. And like I said, really keep that circle, and the people that are in your circle want what's best for you. It's like, and that's it. That doesn't always happen, for the guys. And again, Malachi, I think, has had a little bit of bad timing at the places that he's been at. I still think he's an extremely talented quarterback that I think does have a bright future. He's at Syracuse right now, battling over there, and again, hopefully that's the right fit for him, and he could do some good things, man. Because there's no doubt about it that he could spin it. So again, hopefully from a timing standpoint, it's worked out that he's in a good place now.
Yeah, the couple times I met him when you're training, I'm like, man, I like this kid. I like his personality. Just like about him. You want to root for him, but I know injuries
Yeah.
in different situations. But this goes back to everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different plan. Follow your own. But his receiver, when he was at Los Al, was one of those. Well, Malachi's going to SC and he's bringing a receiver with them. We don't really know. Is it a package deal? Who's this guy? Is he really going to play? And then lo and behold, Malachi is looking at his receiver, Makai Lemon, and like, yo, that dude's going to the Eagles, man. I'm happy for
Yeah.
that.
No, Makai's an absolute dog, man. I mean, I know he gets a bunch of, crap for a lot of the weird interviews and stuff that have kind of been going on, but just as a player, man, I mean, I've never been around a better receiver. I mean, he's just an absolute dog. You always talk about, hey, it's a 50-50 ball when you end up throwing it up to him. Like it's never, it's a 90-10, I mean, that guy's coming down with it. He just has that kind of mentality, the way he is. And I mean, he was great to be around, coaching. He was just a guy that you could always count on, and just, I mean, I think he's going to have a phenomenal career. I really do.
There's another example of if you're a receiver, go work out with Danny.
Get out there, come out, show your hands.
And if you're a quarterback, take your receivers with Danny. Simple as that.
Yes, no doubt.
Don't be that quarterback that doesn't have friends. Bring them to work out.
For sure.
Also, Miller Moss is undrafted.
Yep. Very excited about, very excited about Miller. He's over with the Bears now. And, Miller's a guy that I've told people forever. I didn't know where things were going to work out for him from a draft standpoint, but he's so smart that there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to stick on a team. Like he just brings that to the table. High football IQ. Again, just a very, very sharp player. Knows this game really well. And I think he's going to do great over there with the Bears. So I'm excited for him for sure.
Did you have anybody else this year?
No, as far as quarterbacks, no, that's it.
Okay.
There's the guys that and again, we go back to Miller's journey all throughout high school and the way that whole thing ended up playing out. And we could show videos of doing stuff and working with him and, the ups and downs that he had right over at SC, then ended up finishing his career at Louisville, so again, very, very excited about him and all the rest of the guys that have had their opportunity.
That's awesome. I mean, you said only 3 quarterbacks in this draft. My bad. But you're not training kids for the NFL, Danny. You're training them for life, man. You're making a big impact on them.
I'm trying to do my best with that.
Yeah. So this is episode 1 of season 3. If you're just watching Danny for the first time on the YouTube page, we have season 1, season 2, and a lot of those are the what to do, what not to do. So if you're a new quarterback, and I know Danny was posting about this on his Instagram, go to the Dimecast pod Instagram. There's a bunch of reels up there too you can check out. We're going to get creative this season. We're going to be more active because now that we have our good friend Esteban, who's working behind the scenes with us. We're going to be posting a bunch of different videos, and we can do the streaming start. We got to get back in the studio. We're going to do a lot of those. They're going to be smooth as well. We love being in the studio because we look fresh, but these are the ones like those emergency podcasts. We're like, hey, Danny, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about that. Or if Danny just came back from a road trip, over wherever you may be, whatever in the SEC land, I know you love that down there. We're going to just do an emergency podcast too. And also we have the ability to go live. So every now and then we might just do a special live Dimecast podcast that's interactive with parents and quarterbacks where we could take questions from the people. So we'll do that maybe once a month as we lead up to the football season and just get different kind of things, different perspectives of what's going on out there. Because there's a lot of QB trainers out there, and shout out to our good friend Greg Pinelli Passing Academy, who, by the way, is a scratch golfer. I don't know how, but my goodness, must be good to be good, huh? Must be good to be
that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Danny, so you're just busy right now, just training guys?
Just training guys, and, camp season will be coming up around the corner. So just excited to be back in the mix with these guys. That's all.
That's all, man. Do you like doing the little technology stuff here?
Yeah, not bad, man. I'm with it. It's like I need to get up to date on some of this stuff, but yeah, I'm having a good time.
You got nothing to do. All you have to do is just wear new Dividend Dimes hats every single episode, and you're good to go, man.
There you go. I'll probably accidentally turn this off somehow. I don't know. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Hey, neither do I. That's why we brought in Esteban Reynoso. Esteban is going to be helping us behind the scenes, all kinds of good stuff being out there. Make sure you follow the Dimecast pod. Of course, Danny H131. If you want to get with Danny, a lot of good guys coming up in Southern California. And also his brother, Michael Hernandez. If you're a receiver, get some work in with Michael, man. Don't be shy. Bring the hands.
Don't be shy.
And what about Spencer Holbeck? Whatever happened to him?
He's on a semi-retirement right now, man. Stay tuned.
All right, Danny, congratulations on everything, man. Keep on working hard, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
First episode of Dimecast Season 3 for Danny Hernandez on Bet the Rand. Thanks for watching.